Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. So we are going to start at noon, at 12 o'clock. But, I am on here a little bit early just to say hi to everyone and make sure that everything is functioning properly here, making sure that the stream is working here. So welcome, welcome. We'll be getting started really soon here and chatting with a recruiter from Google and previously worked at Disney as well, and a stream of other companies, top companies in the Bay Area, as well as SoCal. So sit tight. We'll get started in just a minute here. For those of you who are here right now, where are you tuning in from? Where is everyone watching from? Put it in the comments. Bum, bum, bum. I don't know about where you're all tuning in from, but it is pouring over here. Hope everyone is staying dry out there. Make sure. Oh, Harry. Hey, Harry. Shout out to Harry tuning in from New Jersey. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you here. And good to see you again. Well, at least through your YouTube photo here. We'll be getting started in just a little bit. So sit tight here. I believe Leanna actually will be joining probably a little early. So we will definitely be getting started on time here today. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, you know what I wanted to share with all of you. So my partner actually got me a lab coat, because career doctor, right? So can't be the career doctor without a lab coat, right? So this is what it looks like. Yeah, career doctor. So I thought I'd just throw this on today and really just embody career doctor, sitting in a lab coat, ready to talk to you all about networking. Got to play the part. Got to play the part. All right. Dun, dun. We are 6 minutes out. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Where are you tuning in from? Leave a comment for a shout out. Welcome, welcome. I am sitting in the Bay Area over here, and it is raining. Where are you all coming from? Where are you all tuning in from? Welcome, welcome, everyone. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun. Live Oak. Is that Antonita? Hey, Antonita. Welcome, welcome, Auntie. Good morning, good morning. We'll be getting started here in just a few minutes. And Leanna will be joining us in just a few minutes here. Dun, dun, dun. Looks like everything is working. Really cool. Today we're able to see comments from Facebook as well on here. So that is really cool. Previously, we actually had some technical difficulties seeing comments from YouTube, but was able to fix that. So that's good. And added the functionality of being able to see comments from Facebook as well. So super excited to be able to see that. Bum, bum, bum. Welcome, welcome. Yeah. So, for those of you who are here, I have a newborn daughter. As my auntie just pointed out in the comments here. Yeah, I've got a newborn. She's about 5 weeks old. Her name is Zaya Duenas. She is our little bundle of joy, our little human being. Love her to pieces. So, yeah, that's happening. Newborn baby and first time dad. So lots going on my end over here. What time? About a couple more minutes and we will get started here. Welcome everyone. We are doing our January career clinic today, and we actually have these once a month, a career clinic each month. So there will be one in February as well. If you are just tuning in for the first time, you're just jumping in, leave a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Would love to give you a shout out and see where you're coming from. Getting sleep, Harry? Am I getting sleep, huh? You know, trying to get sleep. The sleep deprivation is definitely real. You know, Leanna will be joining us in a minute here, and I know she can also testify to that as well. But you know, doing the best that we can over here. Doing the best we can. All right. About 2 more minutes and we'll get started here. As I was saying before, yeah, this is a monthly career clinic. We do it every month. So today is our January career clinic. February we'll have one as well, so stay tuned for that. And these career clinics are actually a way for us to create more equitable access to career development resources, especially for untapped talents and people with non-traditional backgrounds. So that's what we're here for. And today, you know, we'll be talking and discussing networking, how to network like a boss, right? Kind of like the ins and outs behind networking, how to do it the right way. And, you know, probably discussing a little bit on how, you know, you can do it the wrong way. Because there's definitely, you know, some ways that you probably should not be networking out there today, especially, you know, during this pandemic. You know, everything is online for the most part. You know, a lot of people are networking via LinkedIn. So we will be diving into that in just a minute here. All right. So we are right about to get started here. So sit tight. All right. So we are going to bring Leanna in to join us today. Before we do, just to let you know, well, actually, let's bring her on now. Leanna, welcome.
Hi.
Hello, Leanna Stephenson, aka the Fairy Job Mother, is a technical recruiter at Google. So welcome, Leanna. So happy for you to join us today. As I mentioned a moment ago, coming from Google, And I really appreciate you for joining us today. I know I'm stealing some of your time during lunch, and also and from Leo, your baby boy. So I know you got a busy schedule. So why don't we jump into this discussion and start talking about networking? Yeah.
Sure. One thing to note, I was listening in on the sleep aspect of it. They tell you that it gets better around like 5 months, but we're 9 months in and it kind of gets better. But we just accepted the fact it may be like 5 years till we see that.
5 years from now, maybe we get a little bit of your life back. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'll set a timer for that 5-year mark. Well, let's dive in.
Sure,
let's start chatting away about this networking topic here that so many people are kind of, whether you're grappling with it, we're going to talk about it. We're going to unpack this topic here. So first question for you, Leanna, is where do you start if you're new to networking, right? Maybe you don't have a network, maybe you're new to LinkedIn, maybe you're just a beginner. Right? Where do you start?
Yeah, I think the easiest place to start is obviously with people this can be friends, family, school alumni, previous coworkers, previous teachers, previous bosses, anyone that's in your network, neighbors even, definitely people because it's a easy connection, and then you can branch out from there.
Absolutely. And you know what? Great example. This is a story I like to tell some of my clients and my students and alumni. So when I first graduated from San Francisco State University, I had no idea what I wanted to do, really. I knew I wasn't going to do what I wanted to do for my major, what I majored in. I actually reached out to my professor for my major and ended up getting an internship through her, through one of her connections. And actually, most recently, reached out to my little sister, because she just graduated from university, and I was looking to mentor, some upcoming university graduates. She connected with a few people. So really, yeah, your friends, family, teachers, it's all fair game, right? It's just
and they know you, they can vouch for you, they have a relationship with you already. So definitely.
What about when you're new to LinkedIn, how do you start creating a network for yourself on there and reaching out to people?
Well, I think it ultimately depends on what your mission is, right? When I first joined LinkedIn, this was, I don't even know how many years ago, I won't age myself here, but I was in a different role. I was actually in sales. And so, my mission was to just expand my network, to build my portfolio, if you will. But if you are a job seeker, right, the folks that you are networking with, your intentions are going to be a little bit different. So ultimately it depends on the purpose. But I think connecting with the right people is very important. Again, if you're brand new and you're just building your network, build that core base, right? This is where the friends, the family, coworkers, colleagues, students, professors, anything of that nature, build your base. And then from there, think about what your mission, what your purpose, what your goal is. And then you can kind of identify folks in that second degree, third degree, fourth degree connection that may help you get closer to your goal.
Absolutely. And I think there's also, when you first join LinkedIn, there's an option to take everyone from your contact list in your phone, add them in, that's easy way to streamline creating your network. I think, applying, the strategy that you just mentioned to when you join groups on LinkedIn, super quick and easy way to connect with people, because once you join, you immediately have something in common. Right? You're in the same group. That and even take a look at your alumni or alma mater page on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Alumni, you go on there, it shows all the alumni who are following that page. It shows where they're working. There's a drop down list of where they're located, where they're working, and you've got that in common. So that's an easy kind of low hanging fruit softball way of networking and reaching out to people. So appreciate your response to where do we start when we network. those are a few ways that we can get you started networking if you're new to it. Now, in terms of best practices, right? Because there definitely are, certain practices when you're networking, especially in today's job market. What would you say, from your experience, are some best practices for networking today?
There's a few. Always continue building your network. I think that's going to be number one. But then as you are fine tuning your network, as you're really kind of diving deeper into what you want your network to do for you, I think two things, the how and the why. Always have the how in terms of how you're connected to that person, right? It could be, like I said, first degree, second degree, but express that. And then also the why. Why are you reaching out to them? Why do you want to network with them? If your simple why is just because I want to expand my network, that's okay. Let them know that. And then follow up. I think if you send a note and you haven't heard back, or if you send a request and you haven't heard back, it's okay to follow up. Obviously, don't do it, 5 hours after you did it, or like 24 hours and then do it again 24 hours after that. Give them some time, but it is okay to follow up and say, hey, I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss my note. Would love to connect.
And following up, not long after, connecting with someone, or if you attended their event, is so crucial. People forget, our memory in terms of who we talk to, especially if we talk to a lot of people, so that's why it's so important to, reach out soon after, why you're reaching out, how you know them, super important. Also wanted to add, being authentic, when you're networking, just be yourself when you're networking with people, because that shows that just that level of confidence, in yourself, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable, when you're networking, when you're just being yourself. I would say also, do your homework, right? You reach out to someone, you have no idea what they do, you haven't really looked at their profile, take a look at who you're speaking with, prior, do your homework, do your due diligence, check out their profile, see what you have in common. I think are all things, that, we can add to some of those standard practices behind networking. I think there was, I don't want to take too much of answering the question, but one last
I know we'll dive deeper into that in a little bit, so I'll save.
Oh yeah. Another thing is when you are reaching out to people, I find that when you reach out for the first time, you're asking for something, immediately, is just kind of you kind of put off by it. It's just hey, I need this, I need that.
Yeah.
Maybe I think it's kind of changing, your mindset a little bit. And when you reach out to someone, what can you do for them? How can you support them? I find myself, reaching out to people, especially in the new year, hey, how can I help you? Are you working on any projects? What volunteer opportunities, do you have maybe on your team or internally at your company, are all ways, to kind of start a healthy relationship, or just kicking it off in a positive way versus always asking for something. This is something I like to practice from time to time when I'm networking.
Yeah, and it's okay that you're asking for something, right? Because I know, as a recruiter at Google, I know most of the reason why people reach out to me, but it's also the how you do it, right? If you're coming from a place of curiosity and you want just to connect, you want to gain some knowledge versus the I need something from you. I will tend to be more open to that, and have conversations. If someone's just hey, you're working at one of my top dream companies, just curious, what's it like? You can get to the ask later once we have a connection, and once I know a little bit more about you, that ask, that I need something, won't come off so aggressive if we've had a conversation.
Absolutely. And you also mentioned, the following up, I think there's a sense, in terms of best practices of, you gotta maintain your relationships.
Yeah.
Right? So keep in touch, send those updates, on what you're up to, what you've accomplished, happy birthday, happy new year, all these things, are great ways, and small things that you can, like easy lifts, like a light lift for you to stay in touch with people and maintain your network. And I feel like there are a lot of times we forget, that, there are a lot of people out there, and you're really just one text message away or one message away of just keeping in touch with people.
Yeah,
You'd
absolutely.
be surprised, like a happy birthday could really like brighten someone's day. So staying in touch, maintaining your network, I think, is super key when you're networking. But
Everyone loves to know that they're being thought about. So yeah, definitely +1 to that.
what would you say for networking if you're shy, right? So, I bet there's at least one person in the audience today who is, deathly scared of networking, reaching out to strangers, and is incredibly shy, or maybe doesn't see the value in networking. What tips would you give those people in the audience?
Well, first and foremost, push yourself to get out of that comfort zone. And I'll change your perspective. I would say, think of networking as practice, right? You're going to be talking to strangers. You're going to be selling yourself during an interview process, right? And so the more opportunity, more practice you have in doing that through the networking, the more comfortable you are, the more confident you are going into your interviews. On another note, right, when you're talking with folks, you are inherently gaining knowledge about a role, about a position, about a company. And should you interview there later on, that is information that you have that you can use as a leg up. You're just more comfortable going into the interview process. And again, that confidence is going to come through. So practice, practice, practice. And then, you won't be shy when you're going to the interview, talking to a stranger, having 30 seconds to really pitch yourself and why you're good for the company.
Absolutely. And quick sidebar here. So I see, there are some, questions in the chat, and, toward the end, about the last 15 minutes of today, we will jump into kind of a Q&A, and so some of these questions that are, in the comments here, will appear on the screen, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. So stick around if you got questions about networking, and we will do our best to answer those in the last 15 minutes. All right, back to the conversation here. So networking, people who are shy.
Worst case scenario, they don't respond.
Very true. And that today it's interesting because today, a lot of that networking is happening online. So I feel like the blow is, not as deep, when you're getting like no response from someone that you've messaged online, especially if you're doing it a lot, you're messaging a lot of people, it's just kind of like a drop in the water or like in an ocean of like all the people you're
practicing your writing skills, your communication skills, among many other things.
Yeah. I think to add, when you're shy, and maybe you're looking into, hey, maybe I should start networking. Again, being your authentic self is going to help you, be confident in reaching out to people. And also, again, being prepared, coming prepared. I want to say is like my favorite piece for giving, offering advice to people who are shy. Right, come prepared. If you're gonna reach out to someone, know a thing or two about them. If you have scheduled time to chat with this person, prepare some questions ahead of time. I can't stress enough like how important it is to come prepared, when you're networking, and it will just relieve a lot of anxiety and pressure from you when you feel like you're prepared for these types of engagements with people. And just kind of try to reframe the thinking that, networking is like, always like you're trying to get something out of it. Sometimes like when you network, you're trying to help other people as well. You're trying to support other people and seeing how you can help. It's not always, about, trying to, level up your own person, your own career. Obviously a lot of the time it is, but, it's just kind of like, give and take. It's like a kind of give and take type of relationship when you're networking. How can you give to people as well? And also, receive those opportunities in return.
I appreciate preparation very much so. Goes a
Absolutely.
long way. It goes a long way.
It really does. So next question I wanted to throw out there for you is, have you ever networked your way into a job? And if you have, can you tell us what that was like? Because I think that learning from other people who've done it and kind of like what they did to do it is so valuable. So I wanted to see, if this is something that, a situation you've ever been in where you had to do that.
Yes, quite a few. I would say 75% of the jobs I landed were through networking. So it's definitely, this is why I'm such a huge proponent and advocate for networking. So there's a couple of different methods that early in my career, when I was an agency recruiter and wanted to go into like corporate recruitment, I was applying for a ton of positions, getting the kind of automated rejection. You didn't meet the criteria, there's stronger candidates, et cetera, et cetera. So then, I wanted to approach it a different way. I searched for individuals in the roles that I wanted at the companies that I wanted. And I looked at their backgrounds to kind of see, okay, what is it that I'm missing? What are some skill sets that I might, continue to grow to make myself a better candidate, a more eligible candidate? And I reached out to those folks. Some of them I knew through, second degree, maybe third degree connections in groups. Some of them I didn't know. And the ones I didn't know, I, let them know, hey, I came across your profile. I am very passionate about becoming a recruiter. Your career path is something that, is something that I am hoping for, aspiring towards, would love to just kind of get some advice. So that was one avenue. And then the other avenue was just, when I was on the market, I connected with folks, looked at people, that I previously worked with or was in groups with, and kind of looking at what companies they worked for, what roles they were in, to see if there was any sort of path forward or connection there. And then also when I saw job postings that I liked, I looked to see if there was any sort of connection that I had at those companies that could tell me what the role was all about, what they like, what it's like working there. So there's definitely a lot of avenues. My role into Disney was through networking. My role into Fox was through networking. So yeah, those are two, pretty big ones.
When when you are doing all this networking, is it
Mm-hmm.
word of mouth, or like what channels are you using to network and find these people or connect with these people primarily?
Definitely a combination of both. In person, really letting people in my network know that, hey, I'm looking to make a switch. I'm looking for, a new opportunity. Here's a little bit about my background. If you, hear of anything, please look me in. And then also, again, looking online, if there was any sort of a connection, whether it was people that I knew at companies that I wanted to work for, or people in roles that I wanted to aspire to, that I could gain some knowledge from. So it definitely was a combination of both. With Disney, I saw that they had a posting, and then I saw that someone that worked at Disney was connected to my current coworker, who was a good friend. And I went up to that person and was like, hey, I saw that you were connected to John. How do you know him? Are you good friends? Is it acquaintance? Like, oh yeah, we're really good buddies. I'm like, great. John works at Disney. I saw an opportunity I think would be a great fit. Would you mind making an introduction? Boom, done. All it did was got me an interview. It doesn't guarantee you the job, but it got my foot in the door and then allowed me to really showcase and an opportunity to sell myself.
One thing that you just mentioned that really stands out to me, that I wanted to point out is a lot of the times when you network, it'll get you like an interview,
Mm-hmm.
or it can get you to the right person, but there's a lot that comes after that. You have to perform in those interviews, right? So like the networking can only it goes very far, but there's a certain point where it definitely shifts, and a lot of times, like a lot of people don't just like network and all of a sudden you have a job.
It's, yeah, I mean, in rare cases, there's an instant gratification or instant reward. I can't tell you how many times I've connected with someone that a couple of years down the line, they've reached out to me or I've reached out to them. And again, it's going back to something you said earlier, maintaining that relationship, right? These little check-ins so that they're not a complete stranger. I recently had someone, a former candidate of mine, that reached out to me that I had met back in 2017. And, we stayed in touch, and there was another opportunity, another something that I could do for them. But, we took the time, caught up with each other. And, I was able to, connect into some other folks. And so it's so important to maintain those relationships because you never really know when they're going to come around and come to fruition.
Absolutely. You never know, and it only takes one yes from one person, to get your foot in the door, and sometimes that will lead to, landing a job that you want. I would say that, between applying to jobs and just going online, going onto applicant tracking systems, submitting your application, versus networking your way to opportunities, there's definitely one is definitely harder than the other. And I'll tell you right now, at least I believe that networking is definitely the harder, part. And I think it's mostly because it takes longer. It takes longer to obtain a job in most cases when you're networking. And
there's definitely more preparation, like you talked about, right? The research, who you're connecting with, why you're connecting with them, targeting specific folks, than just adding a resume, submitting an application, send it off, and then just waiting, right? So there's definitely more commitment and investment up front. But I do think the reward is greater in the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot more strategy that goes in.
Yeah.
A lot more thinking about okay, who am I going to reach out to? How do I find this person? What am I going to say? I got to type that out now. I got to message them. I got to schedule time to chat with this person. Informational interviews, go into that as well when you're career transitioning, it's a form of networking versus, just pressing that button and applying. And I think you should do both. Absolutely. Like a combination of both. My advice would be don't ever just do one of these things. Right? You should be applying as well, simultaneously.
Absolutely. A lot of the times, the networking will help highlight, or I guess, increase visibility to your application, to your resume, because, especially when you're applying to big companies, there's hundreds of applicants, right? And who knows where you fall in at, with the applicant tracking system. Is it by date? Is it by whatever? But if you know anyone that can say, hey, I know this person, boom, your application is flagged, or at least it's, being reviewed by somebody rather than just sitting in this pool.
Absolutely. And the referrals, also go a long way as well, I feel. And, I know we'll probably get a little bit more into that in a few moments here. But you were mentioning, that there's hundreds of people who will apply to, any one job. And that kind of is a good segue into this next question here. And that's, how should people be reaching out to recruiters via LinkedIn, the right way or a wrong way? Because you definitely want to stand out, in the pile of applications, or the digital pile of applications that are being sent. And a lot of people will turn to, reaching out to recruiters. Now, what are your thoughts on, how to approach that? Is there a right way, wrong way?
There's absolutely a wrong way. So I'll start there first, and then we can kind of go into, some tips and whatnot. The wrong way is just to blanket and blast your resume out to every recruiter possible, right? Without doing your homework, without knowing who you're sending it to. No preparation whatsoever. For example, I get a lot of emails with an attached resume. Hi, I would like to work for your company. Here's my resume. Let me know if you have something. That tells me a lot of things. Tells me that, you're not even taking the time. You're not even committed and investing in looking at what jobs might be a match for you. You're not telling me anything about yourself. So you're kind of putting all of the homework or all of the demands on me. And I don't even know you. So that is a huge ask. And that's what we're talking about in the beginning, right? The very kind of aggressive, I need something. And it's, I have zero connection to you whatsoever. So that's something that you should not do. On the contrary to that, if someone reaches out to me and they're saying, hey, my name is Leanna. I just recently graduated, or I have some experience in, recruiting. I've always wanted to work for Google, would love to learn about what it's like to work there. Or I saw this position. I think it'd be a great fit based off my experience and my skills. Would love to get your thoughts, right? Not submit me for a referral, just getting my expertise, getting my thoughts, and then we can have a conversation, because maybe that role is great for you. Or maybe, right, jobs have, companies have different titles, different, job descriptions. I can say, oh, I don't think that's what you're really looking for, but here are some other positions I think that might be a fit. So there's a lot of things that can go into that. But again, going back to preparation, going back to tell me a little bit about yourself before the huge ask. Tell me that you've done some homework. Tell me why you're interested in the company. Those things will go much further than, here's my resume, find me a job, please.
Yeah, and I think, there's this maybe misconception that, reaching out to the recruiter is going to, get you the interview, or get you the job. And this will definitely, segue to the next question. But, when you are reaching out to recruiters, is there a certain time that you should be reaching out to them? Like when you are, in the process of applying to a job, should you be reaching out to a recruiter right before you send in your application, or you sent in your application, then you reach out? Is there a best practice for when to reach out?
That's a tough one to answer. There's no black and white answer to that one. The reason for that is a combination, right? It depends on the situation. If you see a posting that is like fresh, or if you see a job that's like absolutely like your dream job, my gut would be like, don't hesitate, apply and then reach out, because maybe they'll take 24 hours to get back to you. Maybe they'll take a week to get back to you. And in that time frame, maybe some other candidate came through the process, right? So you don't want to lose out on those opportunities. You kind of don't want time to go by. So definitely, I would say in that instance, apply. But if there are positions or, job postings that you're like, I have a couple questions, I'm not sure if I'm at the right fit, like maybe you want to spend that time and connect with someone first before applying. So you're being a little bit more selective about the roles that you're applying for. That's another thing, right? Recruiters can see and have access to all of your applications. And so, if you're the type of person, or if you're someone who's like, I'm applying to 20 jobs and all those 20 jobs are in different functions, that doesn't tell me anything about you. It doesn't tell me like what you're actually looking to do. It just tells me that you just want it in no matter what. So that's something to be cognizant about too, right? So in terms of timing, there's not a one size fits all answer to that.
For sure. And, I can actually give an example too, and I wanted to share this. I knew I was going to share this when I was on a conversation last night with one of my alumni, and, I was just, learning about his journey, through the Europe program, his internship at Facebook, and how he got his job at Lyft. We kind of went and delved into all those areas, and we talked about his job search, how that was and how he got into Lyft. And, he told me that he would apply to these jobs. He would also be networking. He was doing a ton of informational interviews. Mm-hmm. But when he would apply, he would try to find the right recruiter, and just, shoot them a quick message via LinkedIn, or like connect with them and shoot them a message. Tell them like, hey, this is who I am. This is like my experience. I've applied to this job, and kind of just, almost like an announcement. Hey, I applied to the job, and I think, yeah. And I feel there are a lot of people who don't do that. And that's just kind of a way for you to stand out, and maybe that'll help you get noticed. Maybe that, like, oh, this person applied, maybe I'll look for their resume, or
worst case scenario, nothing happens, right? But you submitted your application. But on the off chance, like, maybe I just happen to be on LinkedIn, I catch that message and I'm like, oh, let me just look up this person and see what they're all about. And I'm like, hey, their background's great. So essentially you're just getting more visibility. You're attracting more attention to your own application in that sense. You mentioned something too, reaching out to the right recruiter. I think is important, right? Especially if you are applying for a company that's a pretty big company, there's going to be hundreds of recruiters. I can't tell you how many times people reach out to me about jobs that are completely irrelevant to my background. Like there's no way I can help you, even if I wanted to, right? Like, example, it's like, hey, someone reached out to me about like a construction or kind of like a role. And I'm like, I have zero construction, anything. Like not the word construction, not even like in my profile, right? So then that tells me you're just kind of throwing spaghetti to a wall in a way, and you're kind of hoping it sticks. And we get it, right? You're not going to know what recruiter is going to be connected to a specific job unless it's like written in their profile, or maybe they posted that job on their page. And it's okay to say, hey, I don't know if you're the right person, but here's a little bit about my background. Here's a position I applied for. Can you tell me who's a good person to connect to, or like what resources are there? At the minimum, I can say, I don't know, or hey, maybe I'll just forward that information to the right person. So it's okay to admit that like you don't know the exact person that you're reaching out to, rather than just shooting in the dark.
And I think, with larger companies, especially, companies as large as Google, it becomes, a lot more challenging to find like the right recruiters.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so many departments, so many orgs within, internal within the company. So you can get close, and when you're reaching out, and like you said, like make the ask, am I in the right place? No, actually, that's a phrase that I use a lot of the time. Like, am I in the right place here? Can you point me in the right direction?
Yeah.
But I think, with those smaller companies, more mid-size, even like startups, it's so easy to find the right recruiter.
True. True.
And find the right people to talk to, because, you go onto LinkedIn, you search all employees, and there's like a handful of them. There's one recruiter, the person you probably want to reach out to. And some people have like manager on there, and that's probably the hiring manager. So, it's all about like that preparation and research. A lot of times, especially if you're looking into smaller companies, like you can reach out to the right people a lot more easier.
Yeah, you can definitely get direct access to some folks.
That note. So besides recruiters, who else should, network when you're networking? Who else should they be reaching out to? Especially, via LinkedIn.
Anyone, to be honest. But here's why. So hiring managers, obviously. Anyone you can even reach out to, like an administrative assistant, right? They know everyone in the organization. They may be able to be a good resource and point you in the right direction. But no matter who you're reaching out to, right? Again, going back to the how and the why. How are you connected to that person? It's okay if you're not. Explain that, and why you're reaching out. Have a purpose. Have a reason why I'm asking of something for you. But yeah, I think, besides recruiters, hiring managers, someone on the team, maybe someone who's actually like doing the job that you want to do there as well, because they can give you insight on, hey, this is what it's like. Here's my background. Here's how I got in. Potential colleagues, admins, HR folks. Yeah.
So again,
anyone that you have, maybe you share a group, like you mentioned, right? If you're joining a group, maybe you're like, this person likes hiking like I do, and they're at the company that I want to work for. So there's so many different paths, but any sort of connection, as long as there is a connection.
So whether you know it or not, as a job seeker and networking, you're using that strategy to network into your next opportunity, being very intentional about, who you reach out to, kind of utilize the platform and LinkedIn as a tool, to, look within the company, find the right people, identify them, and, take the time to do that research, reach out to them, and see if you get, see if you get a bite, and it doesn't happen every time. Like I gotta tell you, I've done it so many times, that you kind of just become numb to like not getting responses. But when you do get a response, it's like, yay, and it's all worth it. And like you said earlier, like networking, I feel like, man, there's a lot more value in return when you're networking. Not only are you building your personal network, but you're also, getting closer to opportunities that you want, So appreciate, your response on who else should we be reaching out to. It's all part of that strategy of being intentional when you're reaching out and finding the right people. Um, has anyone ever gotten a job through you by networking? So we talked about, it's kind of like reverse. We talked about like, have you gotten a job through networking? Has anyone ever like reached out to you through networking? What was that like?
Yes. I've had former colleagues from like maybe 2 or 3, like early career, that have reached out to me, let them know, they're on the market. So it's more of a warm networking in that aspect. But yes, I absolutely, was able to connect with them, send them and point them in the right direction, connect them to the right people. Again, bringing that visibility to their application. They got an interview, but beyond that, they killed it themselves, and they landed the opportunity on their own in that front. And then there's been a couple of opportunities where through second degree connections, as well as alumni from my school, hey, this person, a former colleague knew this person from a former job of theirs. That person was looking for a new opportunity, wanted to just gain some knowledge about, recruiting at Google and what that's like. And I was able to kind of, again, just point them in the right direction and connect them to a few other resources, and they landed an interview. So yeah, definitely people have gotten their foot in the door through networking with me.
Funny enough, that reminds me of, rewinding a few years back. I think I like reached out to you. I was like, hey, like, what's up working at Disney, and you connected me with I think a recruiter at Disney, and I interviewed with him. I think the only thing was, the position was down in SoCal, and I wasn't able to move down there. So I couldn't, I couldn't continue on with the opportunity as much as I wanted to. But, when you reach out to your friends, family, your immediate circle, doors open. Right? Doors open. So, it's just about, kind of taking that step forward in that direction, being intentional about it,
And also follow through. We talked a lot about follow-up. I think following through, there have been some instances where, I will, because I'm putting my reputation on the line, for example, or in some cases. And it's like, I've definitely connected folks to, some other people, and then they completely ghosted the person that I connected them to. And then that person comes back to me and was like, hey, what's up with your friend? Then it's like, oh, because guess what? I may not be able to refer or connect folks to that person again, because they're going to remember, oh, the last time Leanna sent me someone, was like, oh, they just completely, fell off the map. I don't know if I trust her judgment anymore. So you have to think about that perspective as well, too.
Yeah, there's also, a lot, a little bit of pressure on your end as well, who you're sending through. And that's actually great, transition to this question here. Do recruiters give out referrals? How does that work? Are you allowed to do that? Have you ever had the opportunity to do that?
It depends on the company and kind of the referral process, but I will say that I will advocate for someone. It's not going to be like it might not be a direct referral, but I will certainly advocate for them, right? If someone, maybe that's, not in my first degree, but they've reached out to me. We had that informal chat. I know a little bit about their background, not a lot, but I know enough to be able to comfortably say to a hiring manager or to another colleague recruiter of mine, saying, hey, this person applied for your role, or hey, I think this person might be a good fit. I'm not sure. Why don't you take a look and chat with them, right? It gives me a little bit more reason. And again, my comfort level of saying, I don't really know this person, but I had a conversation with them. Why don't you take a look at their background? So there's kind of that soft or indirect referral, if you will. So yeah, absolutely. Recruiters can and will. I think it just depends on their process, right, at whatever company they're working for, and also the level of comfort and trust that they have with you. If you've never talked to them and you send them your resume, say, hey, help me find a job, they're not going to refer you anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. But if they're like, hey, I spoke with this person, they're really passionate about X, Y, and Z, it's worth having a conversation. It's worth taking a look at their application.
Absolutely. Now, as we approach the the end of our discussion around networking, there is one last question that I wanted to bring up here, and that is, what were like your final thoughts, around networking, or advice that you would want to share to the audience out there that are tuning in? Just overall thoughts around networking.
Do it. No, yeah, do it. Definitely do it. Connect with people, connect with the right folks. And, again, like you've said many times, I think preparation, do your research, right? Do your homework, and give me a reason to want to help you, or give recruiters, or give whoever you're connecting with a reason to want to help you and get to know you.
Absolutely. And you never know, who in your network is going to be that one person who puts you in contact with the opportunities that you want to move toward. The last thing that I'll share on that note is same conversation I had last night with that alumni, when he was talking about his experience in the program and internship. The connections he made. He said that he was very intentional about joining the program, and it was very kind of like focused, like, how am I going to benefit from this program? Me. Starting when he started, but then he quickly realized, there's a community, and there's support there, and he made a lot of connections. And while he was interning at Facebook, he did some stretch projects for other teams through some of his colleagues, in the program. And through that, he was able to connect with like one of the managers on another team, connected him with NASA, and he ended up getting a job offer from NASA, right? Didn't accept it, which is crazy. Right? He accepted the offer from NASA, of course, decided to go with Lyft, but like more power to him. But still, you never know, like through the connections that you build, what opportunities are going to come your way through, reaching out, staying in contact, following up, maintaining those relationships.
Yeah. I mean, hey, maybe he'll want to work at NASA 3 to 5, 10 years from now. He's still going to have those contacts that he made originally.
Absolutely. So transitioning here, I know that we're gonna spend the last 15 minutes or so here answering questions. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and using this format, question, and then what is your question, so that we can easily identify that in the comments here. So I'm going to put the first question up on the screen here for us to take a look at and see if we can do our best to answer them. So first one that we have here, well, actually the first question on there was getting any sleep. That's because, newborn babies on Miranda over here. So we got this one here from Alexandra. Leanna Manny, thank you for this webinar. Have a question. What about new immigrants in this country who don't have friends, family? How might they build their networking connection?
I would say something that you had mentioned earlier, groups. Maybe there are groups from folks who have relocated from similar countries, or just expats in general. Looking at even like groups, interest groups, right? If you have a specific skill set, let's say, if you're like into data science or whatever it may be. And even school, I think school alumni, because maybe there are folks from your original school in your original country that have relocated, to the United States. So I think that will probably be a good start. But also, it's okay to network with folks that you don't have a direct connection to. I think as long as you're open and authentic, like Manny said, about why you want to connect. Hey, I'm new, here. Here's a little bit about my background. I would love to learn a little bit more about the company that you're working for, or the role that you're in, because see, maybe that's the role that they're in now is different than the role that you had in your country. And so again, it's just kind of coming from a curiosity and wanting to gain some knowledge avenue. So yeah, definitely can be done.
Yeah, and I think there are more resources than just LinkedIn. Obviously, yeah. we're talking about like joining groups on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn makes it easy to identify people that you might have something in common with. And it's probably like the easiest place to find information on people in a professional a professional environment.
Mm-hmm.
There are other platforms. I mean, Facebook so Facebook has a ton of groups, job searching groups, referral groups, where you can get your questions answered about your job search. Actually, Albert's Job Listings and Referrals is a great place. Quick plug, great place, for job. People on there are literally like a lot of recruiters are on there, hiring managers, are posting jobs, and through that you can make connections for sure. It's a little bit more, obviously if you connect with people on there, you don't necessarily have to like connect as like a friend, but you can connect, just as, a professional acquaintance and, helping each other, supporting each other, and even things like what is it again? That place where you meet people, meetup.com.
Meetup?
Yeah, there are groups on there. I remember going on there like years ago, like there are like software development groups, people who are interested in different coding languages. Great place to network with people, hence meetup.com, right? But now they're probably meeting up virtually these days. So those are some, hopefully that answers your question, in terms of how to build connections, your network. Next question that we have here, let's see, is following up actually with Alexandra's question. Could you share some thoughts about what would that look like during a pandemic where people have Zoom fatigue and person meetings are easy to come by? Oh, okay.
I'll let you start with this one.
So following up to Alexandra's questions on building, your network, especially if you're coming from, another country, thoughts about what that looks like during a pandemic. Again, using things, online platforms, is where it's at. Places like LinkedIn, places like Facebook, and even Twitter. There are a ton of people are, posting on Twitter that work for companies as well. That you can follow and make, and comment on their postings. Actually, the one strategy I would like to share, is on LinkedIn. If you are looking to connect with someone, right, you can actually go on their profile and you can go under their activity, right, and you can see what postings they're making, what postings they're liking. Mm-hmm. If they're very active, they're making posts, you can click on that post that they made, whether it was a day ago, hours ago, a week ago. You can comment on that post, and if you do, be intentional, be meaningful about how you're commenting, and already, you're like almost indirectly kind of like starting a warm connection. Like you commented on their post, so when you reach out or try to connect with them, they most likely saw your comment. Yeah, and you're not a stranger anymore. So that is definitely one strategy that I like to use. It's definitely diving a little bit deeper into the layers of researching people via LinkedIn, but you can do that, and it is helpful for kind of learning more about them, what their interests are, what they're posting.
Yeah, and talking about Zoom fatigue or like virtual meeting like fatigue, we're going to be virtual regardless, but sometimes it might be refreshing to take a meeting that's not directly related to my job, right? Like just to have an informal conversation for my brain to kind of shift gears and talk about something different than my day-to-day. So it's, even though I am still doing a virtual call, even though I'm doing a Zoom meeting, it's the different content. And so there's a different sort of stimulation that comes from that. So
for sure. And heck, even informational interviews, right? It's a form of networking. It's under the umbrella of networking. Informational interviews are a great way, to get your foot in the door, heck, maybe even get a referral from these people. It is a great way to learn about a new industry. So try out informational interviews. And then I think, similar to, the Zoom fatigue thing, what I've learned is you don't always have to use Zoom, to have meetings with people. Take a phone call.
Yeah.
Like Zoom is like is something a little bit newer, especially during the pandemic. It's highly, utilized by everyone these days. But you still got a phone. You can still dial someone's number and have a meeting and have a conversation that way, and give yourself a break from that Zoom fatigue for sure. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't know if this is, is this a question? Just for networking as an older worker. So I guess general tips when you're a little bit older, because we did talk about, when you're new to networking, or, I guess just generally a beginner at it. So
Mhm.
networking when you're older, maybe you have more experience. Um,
I mean, I think that the tips apply in terms of, right, being an older worker, you're going to have more prior coworkers. You're going to have more people in your network actually to reach out to, probably. Not only folks you've worked with before, previous people that you've led as a manager, people, former managers that you've had, to see kind of where else that they have gone. So I think your network pool is actually greater. But same tips in terms of, being intentional, still do your research, have a purpose in terms of how you're connected with them, and why you want to connect with them.
Absolutely. And you know what? There are like some scenario situations where, you're a little bit older, maybe you're new to LinkedIn,
Mm.
don't have a network on there yet. It happens all the time. You're just starting out. Same thing applies though. When we first started this conversation today, same thing applies. Add your contacts, from your phone to LinkedIn. Download the LinkedIn app. It makes it so much easier, when you're on the go, to be able to network with people or connect with people, or someone's messaging you, you see it and you don't miss it. So, and that's probably the easiest way to kind of transfer your contacts over and, connect with them on LinkedIn. So same thing applies. Start out that way, and start out with, your immediate circle, friends, family, colleagues, professors, teachers, and that is a great way to build this. But I would say, like you said, people who are a little bit older, already have like, some type of established network. It's just not digital yet. It's just not on LinkedIn yet.
Yeah.
So got to get it on LinkedIn, right? Next question here. So this is from Harry. I connected with Harry maybe like a week or two ago. We had a conversation via Zoom. And he is currently university student. Do recruiters get annoyed by the sheer number of LinkedIn requests? Harry's laughing there. What is the best preferred way for job seekers to reach out? And I think we did touch on this a little bit ago, but
Yeah. I wouldn't say annoyed, because it comes with the territory. It's in the nature of what we do. But how to, make yourself stand out. Tell me why you're reaching out to me, right? Again, if there's a job posting, or if there is, a role that you think you're great for, share that with me and tell me why you think you're a good fit. Don't leave it on me to do the search for you and do the homework for you, essentially. But if it, come at me, showing me that you taken the time and that you have a genuine interest in the role or in the company. And if there's not a role, just, hey, wanted to get your thoughts on what it's like to work there, how to stand out, any sort of knowledge gain. But absolutely, there's ways to make yourself stand out, other than just sharing your resume and saying, hey, find me a job, please.
yeah, and make it easy on yourself. Create a template, use like Google Docs, draft out what you want to say. And of course, obviously when you're sending that to, different recruiters or different people you want to connect with, please change the name. Please. I bet you, like, Leanna's got a story already, I can tell, of someone not changing the name.
Yeah, I definitely have gotten that, or like, hey, name.
That's happened to me before too. Um, hilarious. So introduce yourself, of course, and obviously change the name, change the company name if that's. But make it easy on yourself when you are, reaching out to people. You don't always have to create something new when you're reaching out. Have a saved template, and you can just recycle that, changing a few things here and there. That's how we tailor it. We tailor it
Yeah.
to the job that we want. We tailor it to what we've researched and what we know about the people that we're connecting with. So utilize, the tools that you have around you. Next question. We're getting to the end here. So if you have any questions, be sure to put them in the chat so we can get to them. But it looks like we're coming to the end of these questions. Actually, this is from Darian, one of my mentees from San Francisco State University. How do we find out about diversity, equity policies in a company other than the company website?
That's a good question. So there's a couple different avenues. Some folks, who are focused or whose roles are in the DEI or diversity and equity space, will have that on their profiles. Other times you can maybe find out, for example, on a website, what groups exist, what sort of diversity groups, what sort of resource groups exist. And then you can search that. If someone has or someone is a member of this group at a certain company, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I see that you belong, with this group. I'm curious to learn a little bit more about that, as well as the broader policies, at the company. Yeah, so those are two avenues.
One thing, the hashtags, oh my God, the hashtags are so useful on LinkedIn. Hashtag DEI, hashtag diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and when you press that enter button, you'll get the list of everyone who is hashtagging DEI. All these conversations that are happening, and you don't even know it until you search those hashtags. Great way to explore, the different conversations that are out there with people who work at certain companies. Even when you're researching, like you go into a company, find whoever you want to connect with, their, maybe in the diversity, equity, inclusion, departments, or that's kind of what they're focused on. Take a look at their activity. Take a look at the posts that they're making.
The events that they've attended.
Exactly.
Or virtual events.
Go onto the company page. You go onto the company page, go onto the events. There's an events section. There's an about, the overview, about, there's events on there. Click on the events. See what's going on at that company. That's part of the research of knowing what's going on at the companies you want to work for, and follow those companies. Follow those companies so you fill your feed with what's going on at your favorite companies. Cool. So hopefully that answered that question here. And I think we are at an end here. So we got one more question just popped in the chat here. How do you separate friends and coworkers in the workspace? That's interesting.
Not on LinkedIn, just like physically, like.
I think we may have to think about both areas here. I think I can speak to how to separate it in general. I suppose, and I think they call it code switching, code shifting. And it's being like your authentic self, balancing your authentic self while being professional in the workplace, right? And it's kind of like the same thing as how do you separate your friends, coworkers, in the workspace? So how do you maintain that friendship but also be professional at the same time, right? So I think it's something that takes practice and experience. Of maybe one day you're a little bit more yourself or happier in the workplace around your friends and coworkers. Maybe some people are put off by that. Sometimes you try to just experiment and see what works, what is turning heads, what people are maybe just kind of like, what are you talking about? For me at least, it's taken quite some time to figure out what the middle ground is and what I'm comfortable doing, and what other people are comfortable with as well. So you won't know until you actually try. When you try and see what people are comfortable with. So that would be kind of like my 2 cents in the bucket for this. Leanna, if you have anything to add to that, by all means.
I mean, I would say, especially in the beginning, err on the side of caution, right? Because you don't know, what conversations or what content, what subjects are sensitive in the workplace that someone else may overhear. That's, more coworker than friend. But yeah, unfortunately, it's something that you're going to have to test and try and see kind of what works. Talk to the person, even if there's, just because someone is your friend at work, maybe they're not comfortable talking about the things that you guys did over the weekend at work. Maybe they prefer to leave it, outside of work. So you don't really know until you have that conversation. But I would just err on the side of caution.
Yeah, and really checking how you're communicating with people, in the professional environment. You really got to put on your professional hat. You can't just be like, "Hey, what's up?" In an email, or when you're messaging someone. You have to keep it professional in terms of how you're communicating with people. Always, always, always. Even if they are your friend, keep it professional. And sometimes in some situations, you don't know who's watching. you know, especially in the digital age, and everything's on Zoom. So just, be careful, and always just have that professional hat on, and, find that balance between professionalism and being yourself. A few last ones here that are kind of coming in. This is Junior. Junior is actually a current trainee. He's going into internship at Facebook. He's in Europe.
Awesome.
Yeah. How do we approach someone that we want to be mentored by?
I mean, that's fantastic. It's really rewarding when someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I think I would love for you to mentor me." I think be honest. Hey, your career is something that I aspire to. I see you've had a lot of accomplishments in your career and in your roles here, your progression, whatever it is. I would like a similar path, or I'm aspiring, to do the same things. And your guidance would be greatly appreciated. Would you be my mentor? It is a time commitment, I think, more than anything, but tell them why. What do you see in their background that's going to help you? How you think they can help you? I think would be a good starting point, but absolutely don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah. And I think it's important to lay that out, like how that's going to work. What are you looking, for out of that relationship when you want to be mentored? I'll tell you, I mean, I have I had two mentors from Workday, and I was able to, get a lot of opportunities and even shadow internally at Workday for like a facilitator. And I really had to carve out, what it means, what I wanted, out of our relationship, because a lot of times people, they're not familiar with being a mentor. So sometimes, you have to know what it is that you're looking to gain from the relationship, and also timing. Timing is also key, because people are busy, especially people who are well into their careers, and they've got a lot going on already. So timing is important, and so I think taking things with like a grain of salt. If they're not able to, it's okay. There's a ton of fish in the sea in terms of people that potentially can mentor you. So you know continue looking if that's the case. Really quick, I thought this was a great comment. Code switching is the biggest tool I use the most when communicating everywhere, not just the workplace. That's a pretty cool comment. I just wanted to highlight there from Angela. Also, Europe alumni. Pretty cool. Last question, and I know this is last one we're going to wrap up here, because I know that Leanna's got places to be. We're busy. If you applied to a dream job with referral and received a thank you for your interest email from recruiter, is it okay to write an email to the recruiter, try to explain why you are a good fit?
Absolutely. Just like Manny said, and we talked about this earlier, even if it's not a referral, if you apply to a position and you know who the recruiter is, it's okay to reach out and talk a little bit about yourself, make yourself stand out. Worst case scenario, nothing happens. You put in your application. But best case scenario, they may peek at your background and kind of bump your application up and get that visibility, get it into the eyes and the hands of the right person. So absolutely reach out.
Now, I don't know if you can see this. There's another question that just came in, and if you have a moment, I would like to see, if you have time to answer this one. Are you still available?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So this person's been a business owner their whole life and been told not to write that, on the resume that they're a business owner, because it'll scare away recruiters, because they won't be coachable. What is your advice? And I've actually heard that too in the past. What are your thoughts?
I have not heard that, which is interesting. I can see that perspective though, but I would not hesitate to put that on your resume, because that's something that you've worked hard for. It's something that you've built, and there are 1,000 skills that you've learned as a business owner that can be transferable. What I will say though is tailor your resume. Wherever you are trying to transition, highlight as a business owner some of the skills that might relate to the role that you are applying for, and the things that you've accomplished. But yeah, don't hesitate to write that on your resume, because it's something that you've worked hard for and you've accomplished, and so there's no shame in that.
And to JG Tech blog for adding to that. if there are companies that are mad that you are that you're adding that to your resume, sometimes you may have to, just pass up on those opportunities. I mean, I do hope that those aren't like, dream companies that are doing that, but maybe those aren't companies that you want to work for if they're saying that, like, hey, you got this experience and you're not coachable. Like what? That might not be the best place to be. If people don't appreciate what you've accomplished in your life. And I think the last thing is you really have to do a good job of communicating the why you're going from business owner to working, in corporate or working 9-to-5 job, salary. Use your cover letter, use your LinkedIn, the LinkedIn about section, use your cover letter to talk about why you're transitioning, from point A to point B, why you're going, back to a 9-to-5 will go a long way. Right? I always say for people who are career transitioning, that's probably like the best time to be able to use your cover letter, and really show on your LinkedIn, why that's happening. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, never use you don't have to use a cover letter. You don't need to attach a cover letter." But if you're transitioning, I think that's definitely a useful tool. So my 2 cents on that. We are wrapping up now. Leanna, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Everyone, if this was helpful, go ahead and share it on your LinkedIn. Let us know, what you learned, what kind of your key takeaways were from this session. That'll tell us, what we're doing right, and help us to continue having these career clinics each month. I will say, hashtag Leanna in the comments. Hashtag
I expect a lot of connection requests. Otherwise, we didn't do a good job today.
Yeah. Hashtag Perry Job Mother to say thank you in the comments. We appreciate you. Stay tuned for the February Career Clinic. Follow us on IG. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay safe out there, people, and stay networking. All right. Good luck, everyone. We will see you soon. Thanks, Leanna.